that off. That's very hot. There it goes. Bye-bye glove. No glove, no love. Friends, it's been a slice talking. No, that was stupid. That was really stupid. It's time for a temperature check. No, not yours, silly. It's not that kind of show. I'm talking wine temperature. Today, we're talking about what temperature is best for what wine. Stick around. Hi wine lovers, I'm Erin, the founder and chief sommelier here at the Wine Sisters. Welcome to our YouTube channel. This is the place where every week we show you how to eat, drink, and entertain like a pro. Well, I want to thank you first of all. So many of you have written in and said, well, a lot of things, but mostly one of the big questions that you guys have come up with and asked is, what's the right temperature to serve my wines at? And it's a good one. Obviously, so many people are concerned about it, but I'm gonna do a little alleviation, I hope. Alleviate some of your fears if I can. I got my sommelier certification in 2008, and in the entire nearly 12 years that I've been running the Wine Sisters with our customized wine events and specialized sommelier services, and even before that when I was working in restaurants, both before and after I got my sommelier certification, never once, I kid you not once, did I ever see anybody take out a thermometer and put it in their wine. So right off the bat, if this is all you're gonna get from this video, I say throw your white wines in an ice bucket, a mixture of ice and water, for 20 to 30 minutes before serving, and put your red wines in the fridge for 10 minutes before serving. Oh yes, I've got your attention now, right? But let's get into the nitty-gritty of that. So the old adage is, white wine should be served cold and red wine should be served at room temperature. Well, I'm going to tell you, this is June in Toronto and the outside humid and ambient heat, which is coming into my lovely abode, means it's about 23 degrees in here. I am not going to be drinking my red wines at 23 degrees. No, when we're talking about room temperature, you've probably heard this before, but it's worth repeating. When we're talking about room temperature, that old adage came from a time when we didn't have central air, central heat, central AC. This came from a time when we were living in grass huts, or maybe the lucky amongst us were living in stone chateaus, and room temperature was decidedly cooler than it is now. So, most wine professionals will say white wines, depending on the white wine, will be served on average somewhere between 7 and 12 degrees Celsius, and red wine somewhere even between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius. And in my personal opinion, that is way too warm, way too warm. So I like to serve my white wines, yes, somewhere between the 7 and 12, and my red wines somewhere between 10 and 15. The lighter body the red, the chillier it will be. The fuller bodied the white, the warmer it will be. So that's kind of a general overall encompassing thing. But I was at a cottage last weekend and serving some wines to the people who were there. And I did put my red wine in the fridge to chill down for 10 minutes, but I got distracted and it had been in there for about 30. So I poured it for a friend and I said, listen, I'm sorry, let that warm up for a minute or two. It's going to be a little bit too warm. And she's like, no, I like drinking my red wines very cold. I even put ice into it. Well, friends, let me show you. If you're going to put in your red wine to the point where when you pour it, it actually fogs up the glass because it's so cold, that's not a good idea. Any kind of temperature that is served too cold will actually clamp down and hamper any of those beautiful nuances the winemaker wanted you to have. So the fruits, the berries, the earthiness, the mineral, the spice, whatever is going to be in your glass, once it gets down to about that 5 degree, 4 degree or lower temperature where it's starting to make your wine really fog up the glass, well, then you're not going to be getting any of those really nice nuances. And in fact, we do this really cool exercise at the Wine Sisters where we show you the exact same wine, but one has been chilled down to about 0 degrees and the other is served at a more appropriate 12 to 15 degrees. And you'll notice that when the wine that's very, very cold, actually all the flavor has been stripped out of it. All you're left with is the bitter tannins, the sour acidity, maybe even the astringency of the tannins that are feeling, that leave a physical sensation on your palate, but there isn't any fruit left, there isn't any flavor left, and that's not an enjoyable way to have your wine. So I'm not saying don't chill your wine. I am saying definitely chill your red wine, but only for about 10 minutes in the fridge just to take a little bit of the edge off. Now your white wines, on the other hand, a lot of wine professionals will say somewhere between 7 and 12 degrees. So if you've got something that's a fuller bodied Chardonnay or a Viognier, something that has a little bit more heft to it, maybe you're starting to push the boundaries into that 10, 11, 12 degrees Celsius temperature. P.S. If you're somebody who speaks Fahrenheit, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that is. I'm a Celsius kind of person. I'm a good Celsius Canadian. Anyway, but if you have something that's going to be brighter, let's say a Sauvignon Blanc, a Riesling, a Pinot Grigio, you're probably looking to serve that a little bit crisper, more on the 7 degrees. So I'm going to show you what you do now if you have a wine emergency. So take this wine, for example. So this is what you do. If this is a room temperature wine, you just picked it up at the store, rode the subway home for an hour in the sweltering summer heat, but you've got a wine emergency on your hand and you need this cooled stat, and you need a glass, even more statter. You put this in an ice bucket, a mixture of ice and water, let that chill down for 20 minutes. But what do you do with your room temperature wine? Pour yourself a good 3-4 ounces, a nice civilized pour. And this is what a friend of mine, who's a well-respected wine writer in this country, told me to do. So don't at me about this. Admittedly, it's very controversial, but it really works. You take a scoop of ice. That's a good 2 cubes. You stir it around your glass for about 10 seconds. Because the level of wine is only about 3 or 4 ounces, and because we've only got an ice cube or 2 that we are now going to remove, we're not going to let it sit in there and chill the wine down too much further. I'm just chucking it into the sink because I'm classy like that. Now you can see we've got a nicely cooled down glass of wine. It hasn't been diluted. If we left the ice in the wine, it would melt, it would dilute, and it would kind of water down the taste of your wine, which is not ideal. But by stirring it around, letting it chill down for just 10 seconds, you're just getting enough of that edge off the ice to bring it down to a more palatable temperature, especially on a steamy, humid June day. And now you've got a great glass of wine that's been chilled down in a jiffy. So let's recap, friends. Your red wines. I'm going to say I like to serve my red wines lighter on the side, somewhere between 10 and 12. So that would be your Gamay, your Pinot Noirs, your easier going, more youthful Tempranos, things like that. Put those in the fridge for 10 minutes. Just let them take the edge off. For your fuller bodied red wines, I'm going to say something along the lines of 12, maybe even 14 degrees. So that should work out better. That's going to be your Cabernets, your Shirazes. For your white wines, then you chill those down to about 7 degrees or so. That's going to be about 20-30 minutes in an ice bucket, maybe an hour and a half in your fridge. For your Sauvignon Blancs, your Rieslings. For your fuller bodied wines like your Chardonnays and your Viogniers, you're up around 12 to 15 degrees. That's going to be probably 45 minutes in the fridge, maybe 15 minutes in an ice bucket, somewhere like that. You don't want your wines too cold, because if you do, you're going to strip out all that flavor and just leave behind the structure of the tannins, the acidity. It's not going to be very pleasant. You're not going to have any flavor left. Similarly, you don't want them too warm, because if you have them too warm, that just promotes the alcohol, and so you get that, what I call that cheap wine smell. So you just get those aromatics of that sour alcoholic note, and that's not ideal. So generally speaking, somewhere between 7 and 12 degrees Celsius for your whites, somewhere between 10 and 15 degrees for your reds, and Bob's your uncle, you're gonna have yourself a great glass of wine. Wine lovers, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and maybe even share this video with the wine lovers in your life so we can all make sure that we're drinking better. Be sure to hit the bell and subscribe so you can join us every single week when we drop a new video on how to eat, drink, and entertain like a pro. So until next week, friends, stay well, drink better, drink your wine at the right temperature. Santé.